Hey guys, Shawn from SBSOLOCO, and today on Practical Machinist, we're going to do a shop tour. My very first one, I'm hosting it. Behind me is Motor Control Technologies, and they are a small aerospace company, and they're kind of new. They already have their AS9100 and their ITAR registry under 2 years in business. So it's going to be pretty interesting. You guys are going to learn a lot, and he had some trials and tribulations that he went through, and hopefully we'll discuss that with us. So let's hop inside and check it out. What's up, guys? Good, good.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotta sign in.
Oh, I gotta sign in because you guys are like all compliant so I don't go to prison. You guys got your big boy pants on. Okay. What I see, I cannot tell. You ready for the shop tour?
How hard could it be?
How hard could it be? All right, let's go. Hans, how did you get into machining in the first place?
Basically, was a bike mechanic when I was in like high school and into college, and got super frustrated with the pneumatic like career path and decided, like my parents, or mom I should say, communicated like, you should really check out the machine tool program at De Anza Community College, and basically enrolled and hopped in the first class, saw the lab, and I pretty much like fell in love with it ever since.
You're thinking like, maybe I can make a lot of mountain bike parts.
Yes, because like when I was a bike mechanic, like seeing all like the stems, cassettes, and derailleurs, and pedals, and I'm like, good Lord, like how the heck does like someone do this? Pretty much rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. And then you get your own shop and you realize that it's just easier to buy parts instead of make them yourself because it takes too long.
I do have to agree with that.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide that you're going to go on your own? What would it look like from leaving college, jobs, and then getting into your own shop? Because it's a pretty big feat. Everybody knows it's really hard and it's the dream to be your own shop, but what was the path? Tell me about it.
Well, start at square one. Basically, when I was doing night classes at De Anza Community College, and then also working at like various job shops and like tech companies as like an assembler, quality person, and like operator. But that's where I pretty much cut my teeth, and I worked with a lot of socially awkward people that I fit in really well.
There you go.
And basically worked on like cutting all like a gazillion different types of materials like copper, foam, plastics, phenolic.
Yeah, a big company like that is like the best to get into, especially right out of college, because you learn so much, the stuff that you'll never learn in college, just having that real world experience.
It came to a point when we moved up here to Oregon, my wife and I, because we had a kid on the way, and I was like, oh man, like, I just want to make this successful.
And how many square feet is this?
A little over 2,000 square feet.
How long have you been in business for?
Like 2021. But when I actually took ownership of Motor Control Technology, I want to say about like 2 years. But like, when I first got my, 3-axis, I had to scramble to, make an LLC for, the Haas financing company to,
right.
So I was like, Kessler tool machine.
Yeah.
And basically just kind of like morphed into, eventually taking full ownership of MCT.
What do you call your first machine? I know you have names for your machines.
Gina.
Gina. Let's go look at Gina.
Okay.
I know you have a great story of when you purchased this and how it got to this shop.
I was in my brother-in-law's garage, and they're out in Hood River, and their driveway is a fire road. When I first bought the machine, the salesperson's like, oh yeah, rigging's like, $2,000 or something like that. And I was like, oh, like, okay, like not that bad. I communicated to the salesperson. I was like, well, like the driveway is a fire road. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. The rigging company came out and looked at, where we're going to be taking the machine up. And they're like, it's going to be more than $2,000. And then that's when I got the quote for like $6,500.
Oh,
and
no.
And they're like, yeah, we need to rent a 4-wheel drive forklift, because there was like a bunch of switchbacks.
I didn't even know they made a 4-wheel drive forklift, actually. So when you got it up there, I remember you were actually moonlighting up there.
Yeah.
And how many miles away from your house was that machine, your brother's garage?
It was about an hour and a half away.
So you're driving an hour and a half after you're going to your day job.
Yeah.
To do that and staying like sometimes super late and driving right back into work, weren't you?
It was not sustainable.
It was not. No.
It was not, no. You know, there was no like ventilation, no insulation. So if it was like 10 degrees outside, it's 10 degrees in the shop.
So the coolant tank was frozen?
Yeah.
Oh, I love a frozen coolant tank.
I would go and sleep in their living room on a couch, leather couch, and basically I would get up, 4 a.m. and drive back to Canby.
I remember you doing that. And I remember you had I remember you downing probably 5 Rockstars or Red Bulls a day, just trying to survive.
Please don't tell my wife that.
Okay, we'll cut that out. So then at that point, you decided to go fully on your own, and then you had to move it in here. So what people don't know is Hans and I actually tried to get a building together.
Yes.
And we were trying to share, the load a little bit, because we were both starting out and doing that. And it just, we went with a gut feeling where it just wasn't working out, like not between him and I, but just places that worked, center-wise, and just the leasing agreements. And you ended up finding this place, and you called me up and you're like, I found this place. I know we were going to get one together. I'm like, dude, just do it, because I don't think you can find a better place. And honestly, it's been great for you, I think. It's
honestly pretty darn stressful trying to find a commercial space, because if you don't have like a bunch of business history, that's when I kind of got stuck in a corner. They're like, all the property like landlords or whatever, they're like, can you please supply a business plan? Mm-hmm. They usually want 3 years of established business, especially in insurance, stuff like that. So it was quite difficult to do, but you had a pretty good, you found this place on Facebook, right? Or was it Craigslist? Craigslist.
So I kind of wanted to mention for people looking for shops that you don't just look at all the corporate, pages, that sell all the corporate leasing. But if you go to actually Craigslist and look, I think you can find better deals, and you'll actually work with you don't have to work with a broker. You can go right to the leasing. So yeah, like basically on Craigslist, the listing, like I got a call from my friend's, past coworker. His padre was helping me out finding some commercial space. He was just doing a good deed. Mm-hmm. And he gave me a call and he's like, hey, this listing just came up like 20 minutes. Like, we should really jump on this and go take a look. And it was this space. And here you are. Yeah. So then once you got the space and you got this moved in here, then it was like, I really want to be an aerospace shop. I really want to do high-end contracts and stuff like that. Well, I've always had that as like a plan, like since the beginning. It was just like, where the heck do you start on, making those progressions? And from everyone that I talked to, they're like, don't get AS9100 right out of the gate. Wait until you're more established. And like, the more I thought about it, I think it would be the best time to do it, now, since you're small, you have low overhead, not as many like employees or whatever. So like, just get it over with. And then also with dealing with like the registrars and consultants, since I have just a one-man show, my, consulting costs and like audit costs are like exponentially lower than like an established, 50-man, 100-man and if someone wanted to get their AS9100, do you have any tips on how to even start? Basically, the big components of like a QMS system is like having a basic bare bones template of all the forms and procedures. And is someone there to help you? Can you get someone to help you? Yes, you can. But like, I would recommend, finding a consultant person and then figuring out which registrar that you want to go with. And I would highly recommend trying to go with the registrar that all the, your customers are used to. So a lot of people with their AS9100, they get that and they think, well, I want to get my ITAR, but it could be difficult. But honestly, the AS9100 is much more difficult to get than the ITAR registry. There's a thing to be said, like, I want to say like 5 or 10 years ago, like ITAR registration is like
basically here's all the DFARS, like federal like regulations, compliance that like you read. Are you fulfilling like all these different like regulations? Because like if you ever get in trouble, you need to prove that like you were compliant with all these different clauses.
So after you purchased Gina and you wanted to be an aerospace supplier, what was the next purchase you had to do, big purchase, to make sure that happens?
A CMM, yeah, it kind of a necessity.
So this is the CMM, the Contura G2. That's a 5-axis CMM, looks like.
Yeah, it has a RDS like indexing head. When you have a fixed head, you get like star styli, but you know, having an indexing head really makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, different angles and different holes. I mean, this has got to be probably, I would say, what, 2 or 3 times more than that Gina out there, you know, as purchase-wise. So I imagine this one was a stressful purchase, but it's one of those purchases that you're like, you had to have this. So this is kind of make or break type of machinery.
Yes, it was definitely expensive and also, you know, mind-boggling, because they're like, okay, like more money going out the door. But it was something that I always wanted to get. My main goal as a business was to, you know, have a closed loop, you know, have a, you know, machining out there, quality. So any part that goes out the door is, you know, pristine.
I know you have a certain way how your documents are reported out, and I know that some of your customers have been pretty happy with the way you do that.
Yeah, so like basically when we got the CMM installed and up and running, I learned like literally like that day, proving out, getting everything together was when I was having to, you know, bubble the own, you know, literally using Microsoft Paint and, you know, bubbling all the you know, features on all the prints, and then, you know, taking all that information and making all the characteristics on the AS9102 forms. And it was just like crazy, because I was like up until like 3 or 4 in the morning, like Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. And that's when I like looked for inspection planning software. The only thing that we had to do in-house was to create the handshake from how we programmed the CMM to spit out the data into a spreadsheet that neatly organizes everything and then imports into our inspection planning software.
What do you think that saved you in time-wise?
I'm able to do first articles like relatively fast within like an hour. If the drawing is already automated, ballooned, everything makes sense and all that's together. But yes, it has saved like, you know, hundreds of hours.
Yeah. So why did you get this since you have a CMM? What's this going to do for you?
Well, like optical comparators are really great for, I don't know, if you guys do a lot of like helicoils, like chamfer diameters, and then also like, you know, getting form tools and P cutters, like if you ever get like a custom ground one. There was a point where it was before I had this, I got a port tool and I got it in, and I went to go prove out the first part in Inconel 625, and the port tool that I was using, like, all right, touched off everything, programmed it, used the model, and I was like, all right, I checked all the boxes, ran it, and then all of a sudden it just like engaged a lot, and it totally like fried the whole port tool.
Oh no, so you didn't check the one box, which is inspect your port tool?
Yes.
They're also really handy to have, like doing O-ring grooves or anything that you can't like measure internally. Like you have over there, I saw it over there. You have like the dental dam stuff where it's the epoxy. A lot of companies will use that, will squirt it into a shape and then maybe slice it right in half, then put it on the comparator.
And it's also really helpful when you're working on customer parts where they put like a 1 thou tolerance on a engraving depth. And
so then we have your final purchase. There's different avenues that you can go if you need help as a start out manufacturer.
Within every state, there's you know, community colleges where they have like, you know, state business like resource and advisor programs, and then also the state itself, they have like economic development managers. So it's like basically reaching out to them and say like, hey, like I'm a small shop, like, you know, trying to make things happen. Are there any like funding opportunities? Like for example, Business Oregon had a small business sustainability fund. You're a perfect candidate for this program. You should apply. And that's where I had to really make sure, like, go over my whole business plan again and make sure everything was like all accounted for and easily communicated. Applied for it and hoped for the best.
Yeah.
And then also applied to county grants. Like they're out there, they're like everywhere. Right. But it's like you need to have your like ducks in a row.
Yeah. So it looks like we have a 5-axis for the newest purchase. Oh, and we have an employee. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, Shawn.
I used to work with this guy along with Hans. We used to spit him out bad programs. He had to run it. You hired him on, and you bought this at the same time. That's a big jump.
Oh yeah, it was nerve-wracking. Basically, it just came down to when I like realized that I had like huge mountains of I had to program the CMM, I have to program a bunch of parts, I have to run the machine, I have to make fixtures, I have to ship. I need to figure out a way to afford, one, to get another machine, two, and hire a full-time employee.
So Hans gave you the call to come here, and I know you worked at a bigger companies, a lot more employees, more established, and like it's going into a small shop like this. It must have been kind of scary, but like, what are the pros and cons of coming to a shop like this?
The main reason I wanted to leave was I felt like my skill set wasn't fully being realized. With whenever a larger shop is running, it's hard to step out of your lane. Coming here was that being able to step out of my lane and improve the process. If there's any issues that we run into, we can fix them right then and there and learn from the mistake without having to change this massive process that's already been established. And now that, since we're learning so much, we're building that process. If we get a part that we have never done before and we need to figure out how to cut that material, there's no one to really rely on, like, oh, this person, they've cut titanium on a regular basis. They know the feeds and speeds, the amount it's going to warp. But here, we're smaller, and it's like, oh, we're figuring that out all on our own.
You guys have your collective experience together, and wherever it limits, you're like, oh, we better phone a friend or something.
Yeah. Having like good relationships with like past people that you worked with, and because even when I was like first starting out, I probably spammed your phone a gazillion times.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It said solicitor on it.
Did it really?
No.
No.
So I noticed you guys have some 0-point clamping vices, and you have it registered on your 5-axis and on your 3-axis.
Yeah, it's with intents. And the ability to go from base plate and then onto your 4th axis and knowing it locates perfectly is extremely crucial.
We are planning on getting like a little raster plate for the CMM for the 96 and 52 millimeter like laying stud pattern. But yeah, that is something that we want to do when we do more involved, more complex projects.
It looks like you have a few fixtures here.
Yes.
So it looks like you're using a couple Mighty Bites and custom stuff. These are pretty nice. Kind of hope you got paid for that. Extra stitching.
If a customer were ever to, come on site, I'd rather them see shiny parts than like hack together things.
What is that?
It is from a resin 3D printer. You did like a manual stop and insert this and then use, basically UV cured.
The UV. Oh, you're using blue Photon.
Yeah.
So you're actually utilizing some higher tech, fixturing stuff.
Nice thing about using UV cured epoxy is, we're not clamping, distorting material. You can utilize the epoxy in other areas and not have to invest insane amount for all the different components. Like a shop could pretty much make their own Photon fix,
Yeah.
in
Because it uses
grippers.
like the sapphire or whatever, or
Yeah,
because
sapphire.
the sapphire is the main. You can get sapphire and use that, and then use the ultraviolet light to cure however you want to, if you can cut sapphire.
Yeah. I'd rather spend the time, make the fixture, because it's all about like process reliability. For me, what's important in my, business and just career is like a green CMM report.
Imagine the 5-axis helps you a ton as far as like limit your fixturing, versus going on the 3-axis, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And but also that's where we started utilizing, blue photon with our, in process machining. We're using it more and more through each project, especially since everything nowadays is like super thin wall.
So you have this RegoFix system. So what made you decide to get this system in general versus other systems?
If you were to take a gander around the shop and seeing all the tool holders, there's like one main brand we use, and they always have like killer runout, like within a couple tenths. We eventually want to get into more heat shrink tooling, but we decided to go with the power grip system. It was a little bit less of a rough entry cost.
Okay, I noticed that you guys have HSK, so you're actually running HSK on your UMC Haas. Like, that's kind of an interesting choice. Not a lot of people run HSK.
We kind of see the UMC as a stepping stone in our business to prove to our customer base like we can do more and more complex like 5-axis parts, and then when the cash flow is there, invest in a more substantial 5-axis machine.
Mm-hmm.
And the trail that I want to go down to is they're all HSK.
Right.
So start investing in that tooling now, so when we get that new machine, it's not like spending $100,000 on a crap ton of tool holders.
Exactly, and I've always loved HSK. These are HSK 63s.
We've been really stoked on it. We decided to do it just for the investment in the long term.
So I see you have some parts in here that honestly, I was hoping there was going to be donuts or something in here, but they're just parts that you can't show.
Can't do it.
So how do you get work? Is there any way you can like elaborate on how you get work, or you want to keep your secrets?
Basically, there are some online job boards, and that I originally, slowly chipped away at doing projects at, and building up the war chest. Even when I moved over here, it is like you just have to like put yourself out there. And I use LinkedIn like mainly to establish my business the way it is, finding all the different companies, the different positions, just reaching out. Like, I know there's a point where you don't want to spam people.
Yeah, there's
but
a fine line there.
There's a fine line. I was getting maybe like 3%, 4% probability of someone like responding back. Going through all the like, supplier onboarding, especially with like, big OEMs, it takes years to get your foot in the door with them.
Yeah.
And there's like small business liaison representatives that, you have to like kind of talk to and figure out like what they look for in a supplier, like what infrastructures and capabilities that they want their vendors to be.
Do you feel that AS9100, once you got that, and ITAR really got you more work, or is it just you had to get it because you already had the work?
In order to be able to work with companies with things that either get lobbed up into space or defense companies, that's like minimum entrance requirement. Mm-hmm. And yes, it did help, but like it's not like you just get AS9100 and then like they're gonna work with you. It's like you got to have like the infrastructure, the capabilities. There's a lot of things and a lot of clauses you have to be compliant with, but with the new rules and regulations with CMMC, you got to be like NIST 800-171 compliant. So that's like the bare minimum for like IT security.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like you need to have it. Basically, it's like another AS9100, but for like IT and information security. Mm-hmm. Because like all the customers that like I'm going after, all their data is, you know, they care about it a lot.
Yeah.
It's a really big deal. And, you know, my dad, you know, he's a retired like IT networking securities person. And I am forever grateful. Our current, you know, IT infrastructure is, you know, of course we have a firewall, encrypted drives, you know, the computers are configured in a way where everything's like, you know, bit locked and so on and so forth. But like, you know, not getting too much in depth.
Right.
But, you know, that's it. For me, that's like really important.
That's the one thing about being an owner. Being a machinist is so fun. Like, I want to be a machinist. I want to start my own business so I can just make parts. And then you realize like, okay, I don't know how to do 80% of what I need to do to run a business. And you have to learn it all as you're growing.
There's been so many times like through all of this where I'm like, man, all I want to do is make a cup holder for some jet or submarine. Like, I don't care like how much money it generates. Like, I just want to make that like cup holder to that you know, DoD general's like desk.
You're in the background trying to figure out IT stuff, and now you have to hire someone else to do all the fun stuff.
Exactly.
Well, Hans, I appreciate the tour of the shop. I'm sure everybody else did. If anybody can find you, where can they find you at?
Go to motorcontroltechnology.com. That's just like the main website, and then LinkedIn, same thing, or my personal LinkedIn, Hans Kessler, and yeah.
Awesome, man. It's been a year since I've been here, and I love to see how it's already grown. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll see you guys on the next one, I suppose. Later.